Good evening, you're watching the Buck Stops Here Weekend Edition. I'm Amitabh Revi.
Good evening, I'm Neha Khanna. Our big focus tonight, it's been labelled the most polluted city in the world by the World Health Organization, with alarming pollution levels being registered every single day. Delhi's air is absolutely toxic, especially for those with respiratory disorders. And now the Aam Aadmi Party government in Delhi has decided it is time for strong and collective action.
In fact, Delhi's Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal today has announced that the 22nd of January will be observed as a car-free day across the capital. Leading by example, he says even he will cycle to office. But given that about 1,400 cars are added to Delhi's roads every day, can the capital and in fact India's cities truly go car-free?
Now he is cycling for Delhi and is asking all of Delhi to do the same. Today it was just Dwarka, but on the 22nd of December it will be all of East Delhi, and then on the 22nd of October next year, all of Delhi is expected to go car-free.
पूरी दिल्ली के अंदर इस तरह से करना चाहिए, उस दिन पूरी दिल्ली के लोगों से आह्वान किया जाए कि भाई एक दिन अपनी गाड़ी से दफ्तर मत जाना, साइकिल से दफ्तर जाना। मैं भी जाऊंगा।
On a day when 4 places in Delhi were categorized severe out of 9 in India, leading to respiratory trouble for children and the elderly and those with asthma, Delhi held its second car day.
दिल्ली सरकार ने भी और कुछ एनजीओज, सेंटर फॉर साइंस एंड एनवायरनमेंट ने शायद उन लोगों ने जब प्रदूषण का स्तर नापा तो पता चला कि जिस सड़क के ऊपर कार फ्री डे मनाया गया था उस सड़क पे 60% प्रदूषण कम हुआ था उस दिन।
महीने में एक दिन कार छोड़ोगे, धीरे धीरे हमारी आदत बदलेगी।
It's fantastic, great initiative. Yeah, it's a good one.
It's Delhi government's dream to create a car-free Delhi on a regular basis by 2016. But whether it will be feasible for public to completely rely on public transport and cleaner options is still a big question which needs to be answered.
And in a show of rare camaraderie, the Delhi government, along with the centre and the municipal corporation, launched several initiatives to create a cleaner India. Among them, the Swachh web app, a waste-to-energy project in Ghazipur, and a revamped slum inspection board.
कोऑपरेटिव फेडरलिज्म का अगर कोई सबसे बड़ा उदाहरण इस देश में हो सकता है तो वो ये मंच है। मुझे लगता है कि अगर इसी तरह से सरकारें मिलकर काम करें तो बहुत सारी चीजें हो सकती हैं।
A check of 97.6 crore was handed by Venkaiah Naidu to Delhi government for the Swachh web application, through which people can upload pictures of uncleared garbage and construction waste.
Unless there is a people's participation, no program can succeed. This is a lesson we have learned over the years. So keeping that in mind, the Prime Minister on the day one told me, Venkaiah ji, this is not a government program, this is not a party program. And this should not be a ritual, it should become a people's movement.
The governments at all three levels, MCD, state and centre, have joined their hands together to create the Swachh Delhi application. A lot of promise has been put into it. Let us see if it is going to fail us or if it is going to be a success. With camera person Fahad Talha and camera assistant Mohit, in New Delhi, Rashmi Maan, NDTV.
Joining us in our Delhi studios, Professor Dinesh Mohan, road safety expert. Also, Dr. Navdeep Guleria, Professor, Department of Medicine at the All India Institute. Navdeep Singh Virk is the Gurgaon Police Commissioner. And Raghav Chadda, the spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. Mr. Chadda, just coming to you. Now, we've seen how in the last few months, a few arterial roads or a few roads have been car-free. January 22nd, isn't that too ambitious? Delhi car-free, what does it mean?
Well, Amitabh, taking forward the special awareness campaigns being run by the government of Delhi, the first car-free day in a particular stretch in Delhi was observed on the 22nd of October. The second one was observed today, and the third one, in which the entire East Delhi area would be made car-free, would be the 22nd of January. Now, as the Chief Minister pointed out and you played out in the opening package, the Centre for Science and Environment did a detailed exposure monitoring study and also did a monitoring of the official ambient air quality and found out that there was a reduction in the air, the toxic air pollutants, particularly PM 2.5 and PM 10.0 by a whopping 60% in comparison to what it was the previous day. So when we have reinforced the fact that, and we have arrived at a conclusion that vehicular traffic is the single biggest contributor to air pollution, there is a need to create awareness about the perils of car dependency and the need to give up car and have a sustainable public transport system. The government is not only conducting these awareness campaigns but is also adopting various administrative as well as legislative measures in order to deal with the menace of air pollution. And let me just quote the Honorable Finance Minister of Delhi. When he presented the budget, he said that the government of NCT of Delhi, the Aam Aadmi Party government, believes that a developed city is not the one in which the poor have cars, but the one in which the rich use public transport, and thereby laying down a complete roadmap as to how Delhi will be given a reliable, cheaper, affordable, accessible, safe public transport system.
Right. Well, certainly it's an initiative that has been welcomed by everyone. I guess there's really no quarrel with that. But the question really is, how do we take it beyond mere photo opportunities and tokenism? Mr. Virk, if I could come across to you now. Now, Gurgaon had its own car-free day on the 22nd of September. You yourself rode a cycle that day, also encouraging your colleagues to follow suit. But it wasn't a particularly pleasant experience for many. For example, there were plenty of cars in what was supposed to be car-free zones. And then many complained that the traffic that was diverted from the car-free zones ended up clogging the expressway itself. So how do you really propose to address a challenge like that, really?
Ma'am, let me clarify a few facts. We are having this car-free Tuesday every week since then. We've already had 8 editions. And I have to explain to you that this cannot happen in one day. It's a long-term thing. We have to motivate all the people, all the citizens, that they don't have an option. So the only option is to give away their cars and come to alternate means of transport. Every week we have been trying to involve more and more people. We have involved more schools. We have only focused on 4 corridors, and we have involved more schools, more corporates. And in fact, on every Tuesday we reduce about 20 to 25,000 cars in Gurgaon. And what we have also seen is that due to these efforts, on a daily basis, at least 500 to 1,000 cars are less on the roads. I'll tell you how this has happened. After this movement started, some of the corporates came up with this concept of customized shuttle services. So now they are trying to develop this customized shuttle service so that they can provide point to point combined transport for their people.
Let me just pick up on that point. Let me pick up on that customized point that you have, point to point. Now, suppose some employees are working in Delhi or in Faridabad or in Noida and have to travel to Gurgaon. How does that work with these corporates?
Okay, let's say 3 corporates in Udyog Vihar have got together, and what they have done is they have collected a database of their employees, from where they are coming, at what time they are coming. After putting that on the computer, they can find out like these many employees are coming from these spots, and we can provide one shuttle service for them. So in that manner, we are trying to come up with a customized shuttle service.
Right. Professor Mohan, if I could take that to you. Now, some of the figures that we have before us are quite staggering. 1,400 cars are added to Delhi's roads every day, and there has been a 97% jump in the number of vehicles in the last decade. Now, given those kind of figures, how does one really incentivize not using cars, given that Delhi really loves its cars? Going forward, do you think maybe imposing fines for non-compliance could be an option? Right now, it's completely voluntary. But how do you ensure that it doesn't just end up as a campaign?
Actually you have to look at the numbers. Delhi, out of the large cities in the world, has the lowest car use. Hardly 12 to 13%. The numbers out in the census now. Less than 15% of the people go to work in cars. So, we have to, I think these are very nice efforts. And secondly, just talking about Delhi is very anti-Indian. There are dozens of cities in the country which are much more polluted than Delhi.
Sure.
So we have to start looking at this in a more scientific manner with data and understand what are the long-term issues. There are dozens of cities around the world which observe car-free days for the last 10 years. In most of them, car use has not decreased. So let's look at data. What does it matter? These are nice symbolic gestures. You know,
even abroad in big cities where they're talking about keeping it center free at least of cars.
There's only two cities in the world which have
but they have
congestion
plans,
charge.
2019, 2020.
But there's no city in the world that I know of which has reduced car use because they observe car-free days. And so, in any case, more people use public transport and walk and cycle in Delhi than most European countries.
Sure.
So, you know, let's look at why the pollution is here. Transport, there are only two studies available up to now as far as PM 2.5 is concerned. One is done by my colleague Professor Guttikunda, other by Malavi Pant, and both show that pollution by vehicles is less than 20%. So there are about 4 different sources of pollution.
Vehicles including trucks,
everything,
everything less than 20%.
And so there are no studies. There are only 2 studies. Others are rough estimates. We don't even know how many vehicles there are in Delhi. According to our studies, the actual number of cars and motorcycles is 50% of the official number, because no vehicle is ever taken off the records. So the total number of vehicles registered in Delhi is twice the number of the actual on the road, because when you junk a vehicle, you don't go to the RTO to get your... So it's a cumulative number. So all calculations done are based on false numbers.
Right.
Dr. Guleria, in your view, we see these now because there are these new numbers that are out there in the public domain. The media is also putting them out there. It's more accessible to the public. Very worrying figures in terms of pollution. And as the professor is pointing out, it's not just Delhi, of course, that we should look at. In your view, pollution and the worries for people who are not only who have bronchial problems, but even healthy people, what is your assessment of that?
No, I think it's a major cause of concern because of 2 reasons. One is there is a large body of data available which shows that high levels of PM 2.5 and less than that are harmful, and therefore it affects not only the health of people with respiratory and cardiac problem, but also has an effect on people who have who are normal, and it's not an acute effect, but there's a long-term effect of people living in levels of experiencing high levels of air pollution for a very long time. Secondly, I think it's a very good step. As has already been said, around 20 to 25% of the outdoor air pollution is contributed by vehicles, and this is a step to increase awareness, I think, rather than just bringing down the number of vehicles. So there is a big need to increase public awareness as far as the harmful effects of air pollution is concerned. Bringing down vehicles is just one step. Encouraging people to use more and more environmentally safe methods of transport is another step. So these are all small steps in a sort of let's say a battle against bringing down the overall levels of air pollution.
Right. Raghav Chadha, if I could come to you now. Now, if you really want people to avoid using cars, fact of the matter is you've got to give them viable alternatives. And many would argue that the state of public transport in a city like Delhi leaves a lot to be desired. For example, according to one figure, we have about 6,200 public buses in service in Delhi compared to the proposed 11,000. And what people really need is last mile connectivity. Isn't that really a challenge that the government also needs to address?
No, certainly, Neha, you know, just by running these awareness campaigns, the air pollution levels in Delhi cannot be brought down by a drastic level. You need to give sustainable alternatives to people, you know, in terms of public transport, in terms of safe and convenient footpaths, cycling tracks, etc., in order to ensure that there are alternatives for them to travel. Now the government of Delhi has laid down a complete blueprint for creating this multimodal integrated transport system, and the government is not only just scaling up the existing infrastructure, by which I mean increasing the number of coaches in metros, increasing the number of buses, but is also redesigning all the roads. The PWD minister, as he said in a press conference a few weeks back, that the entire 1,280 kilometer stretch of roads that comes under the government of Delhi is being redesigned with main focus on creating footpaths, cycling tracks and public transport infrastructure. The government has also levied green tax on trucks that enter Delhi at night, and that has also resulted in a drastic fall in that number.
Right, you're raising very important points there, which I want to take to Professor Dinesh.
No, it has been implemented. Well, it needs to be improvised. I certainly agree, but it has been implemented.
Sure, but you're raising very important points. I want to take them to Professor Dinesh Mohan as well. But before that, Commissioner Virk, now as you were saying, it is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take, I don't know how long it's going to take. But for example, even when it was happening in Gurgaon, there was small stretches that were car free. But what was happening was that the other roads that people had to take with cars were getting completely jammed, as Neha was pointing out there. Today, for example, in the Dwarka area, I know for a fact, and we're not talking about people who travel by cars, people who are working, who may even travel by foot. Something, it may not mean too much, something that would take them 10 minutes to travel to work, took them half an hour. So how are you tackling that, Commissioner?
See, we are focusing only on 4 corridors, and what we are trying to do here is that we are not allowing people to park beyond the designated parking areas.
Sure.
So in 2, 3, 4 weeks, people have realized that there is no use of bringing their car on a particular Tuesday when it will not be allowed. So first or second car free Tuesday, we saw some jams and something, but now we don't see that kind of a situation. The traffic flows smoothly around those 4 corridors, and whatever jams are caused are due to normal circumstances. It's nothing to do with the car free Tuesday as such.